Little pastors are invited to come to a private meeting with a group of men who are connected with the intelligence world that are believers, but are still have very high security clearance.
That they actually look more human with reptilian skin, but humanoid. They're hybrids.
There's a great deception coming, and the terminal generation, or the last generation in the end times in the Bible, are going to be the most deceived generation.
Hello and welcome back to Trigger Smart. I have a very special guest here today. This is Mrs. Trigger Smart. There was something I was talking about that I believe she's more of an expert in that area. She has a lot of information in that area. So I wanted to make sure that she could share some of her ideas. We were talking about it earlier, and I was like, this would be perfect for a podcast. So welcome.
Thanks.
So really what we're talking about here is the whole idea that all these pastors went to this meeting for the government. The whole point is like God isn't real, that the government is going to disclose something that's going to discredit the Bible and that may shake up Christianity. And then he come out the next day with what looked like he's reading off a script, basically saying the opposite. Like, these are my own opinions. I want to make sure that whatever I said yesterday doesn't stand and that kind of stuff. So what are your thoughts on that initially, just coming from like the Christian point of view, how we know that there's a lot of deception, especially in the end times?
I think it's weird that they're trying to talk to pastors, that they got a select few of not super well-known pastors to just have this secret meeting about and to go over information that is yet to be revealed. It smells fishy.
It does. And initially I heard it was like 6 pastors, maybe like up to 12, maybe a dozen pastors. The thing that's interesting is one of them is a prophet, like a self-proclaimed prophet type of guy, Johnny Z, or Jimmy Z, something like that. And then the other like 4 or 5 are very well-known, like YouTube pastors. Like they might have churches and that kind of stuff. Some of these are like a little bit bigger churches, but they seem they handpicked the ones who could have a big voice on social media, but only 6 to 12 of them. And there's hundreds of thousands of pastors all across the entire nation. So the real question is like, what would be the benefit of such a small group?
Are they all across the U.S. or focused in particular areas?
That's a good question. So apparently they met with Congressman Eric Burlison, and that is the one who's kind of pushing this drive. And according to some of the stuff, we're going to watch some of it here and we'll kind of react to it. But the takeaway was that they met with some kind of intelligence piece of the government through the congressman, which again, when you take, church and state, you take the intelligence and you combine that with pastors, but only a small handful of them. What's the end goal?
So I listen to a lot of pastors.
Including Pastor Hagee, who is a very large church.
He does have a very large church. He's also been a pastor for like 60, almost 70 years. And then Perry Stone, who's been a pastor.
And he was one that was there.
50 to 60. He wasn't there.
No, he was at this meeting.
He wasn't. So based on his video, it was a very close and dear friend of his that told him about it, but Perry Stone wasn't actually at the meeting, which I find interesting. So Perry Stone wasn't, John Hagee wasn't, Jonathan Cahn wasn't. All of these kind of large following pastors were selectively not chosen.
But these ones with very big social influence were?
I guess so. I'm not sure what went behind them actually choosing who they chose, but from my understanding also, I do watch a lot of Brandon Biggs videos and things like that. He's been right on a lot of things. And just a lot of things that he says does tend to make sense. And something that he was talking about in some of his recent videos were that obviously there's a great deception coming, and the terminal generation, or the last generation in the end times in the Bible, are going to be the most deceived generation. Jesus talks about it even when he was alive. Watch out that you won't be deceived. But we're going to be the most deceived generation. I fully believe that we are the terminal generation. We're going to be the last generation before Jesus comes back. Anyways, but what he's talking about is this great deception that's coming around, not only because, number one, they're trying to hide other things that they're trying to bring about at the same time.
Which we'll get into.
But also, it's going to cause kind of a rift, right? Either people are going to cling to their faith, or those people that were lukewarm in the first place, which is the last generation of the church age, just the lukewarm people who are just like, I don't really know if I'm a Christian. But I do believe in, Earth Day and spiritual stuff, but I'm not really like a God-fearing Christian. Those people who are kind of on the fence, I think when some of this information is let out, they're going to be like, I knew it. I knew all the time. God's not real. And they're going to fall away, which is also what the Bible talks about. In the end times, there's going to be a great falling away.
And another part of that, too, is we're already seeing that. So even before this full disclosure that supposedly aliens created us and seeded the earth with humans and gave us the technology that we have and that God supposedly isn't real, even before all of that, there's already been a great falling away. There's probably less Christians now in the United States than there's ever been.
What's interesting is a few years ago, there was a survey. I think it wasn't even a few years ago. I think it was about a year ago. There was a survey from atheists and agnostics. So people who are not like God-fearing Christian believers. And even they believed we were in the end times. People that don't even believe God exists are like, this stuff's crazy. We have to be getting there. I don't know how that's going to shift without some major event or something major being released. So if you have all of this information that I think is very believable, that's what Satan's good at, right? He's been on this earth a long time. He knows how human nature is and how to sway people and how to work at that and how to play on people's weaknesses. And I think if you don't have a strong Christian faith, if you don't know your word and are in your word and are in studying the Bible, I think it's going to be very easy for people who even say that they're believers, who aren't actually reading their word all the time and getting it inside of them, for even them to be deceived and just being like, this sounds like the truth.
One really interesting thing they talked about in this was AI.
Yep.
And I know that Brandon Biggs has brought up AI. And just so you guys know, no, I don't think that Brandon Biggs is the end all be all. And I know I've shown him in like recent videos like 10 times and she's bringing him up. But the reason he's being brought up is because of his accuracy in previous events. And a lot of the stuff that he says aligns with things in the Bible that are supposed to be coming. So it's really more of like being aware of this type of information. And then once something happens, you could have more discernment in how you want to handle that situation. So that's really the whole takeaway from Brandon Biggs.
Well, and by 2 or 3, a thing is established, right? So you have to have witnesses to what is being said and its accuracy. And you always have to go back to the word and make sure that it lines up with the word, right? So some of the things that, kind of in some of the videos that I was talking about that he references is AI that's coming and the fact that, there is a lot of like evil and demonic kind of presence or energy or whatever you want to call it behind releasing this footage or releasing these facts or releasing whatever they're going to all in one lump sum to really cause people to fall away from their faith, to keep a great revival from coming. And at the same token, while this is going on over here, which to be honest isn't really new news to some people, maybe a lot of people it will be, but some people kind of have a general idea of like, the stuff's been going on for a while. So it's not all new news, but while that's going on over here, a sleight of hand of taking people's attention away from this beast system that's rolling out, right? Because they're going to be distracted with something that they think is amazing and new information and, I knew it all along and God doesn't exist and all this stuff and just bringing in this beast system of, a one world currency and artificial intelligence trying to get information from everybody and on the same system because you can't have a one world leader and a one religious system and a one world currency unless you have a way of controlling all of that. So it has to be put in place. And
it's interesting that they've talked about, even in this meeting, they talked about AI. So if AI, we think of it, a lot of people think of AI as like ChatGPT and those kind of things. They're using it in war, and apparently, according to this meeting, they're also using it to make decisions in our government. That was an allegation that came out from this meeting as well. If that's true, and some people prophesized before that AI was the Antichrist, right? Like there's been some inklings of it. Just that idea overall, if AI is running all of this, what's the possibility that this whole thing is just a psyop and that aliens is just made up and AI is just the aliens? Like the idea that there's not actually alien beings.
You have to go back and compare it to the word. So number one, we're going to be the most deceived generation, or the terminal generation will be the most deceived generation. And also, if you're looking at the fact that could this all just be kind of made up or a hoax, the end times are going to be similar to the days, or when Jesus returns, I should say, are going to be similar to the days of Lot and Noah. So what on earth happened then, right? You had rampant homosexuality, you had a lot of violence, you had the Nephilim, you had angels that came down and had kids with, the daughters of men and created these like super giants basically that were alive in the time. And So their DNA was kind of all mixed up and corrupted the bloodline. And you're going to have that again. There's a reason that it says that the end days are going to be similar. When Jesus returns, it's going to be similar to the days of Lot and Noah. And you have to look at everything that was going on and happening at that time. It's not just like, yeah, it was a really rough time and everybody just was raping each other and killing each other. Like, there was more going on. There was specific things that were going on. And there was a lot of people that didn't believe. Noah went around, for 120 years and told people, hey, flood's coming. And people are just like, yeah. And people are going around now, even Brandon Biggs and the pastors and things, they're like, Jesus is coming and Jesus is coming. And people are like, yeah, you've been saying that for a long time. Yes, but look at the times in which we live in. Look at all of the countries going against Israel and the season of the time that we look in. And Jesus gives the parable of the fig tree in the Bible of knowing the times in which we live in to understand when his return is going to be imminent. To look at the leaves of the fig tree.
Now, that's important to consider, too, is everyone going against Israel. Because in the Bible, it doesn't mention the United States, as far as what we know. Which means that either the U.S. is no longer an ally, the U.S. is gone, or is no longer functioning as a government. So something is happening there. But the fact that you're saying that, because if you go on X or anywhere, that's basically all you see is anti-Semitism. Now, you see the side that's defending Israel, and then you have the side that's like, they're controlling our president, they're controlling our country, they're in every corporation and that kind of stuff. And there's some truth to some of that.
Yeah.
But we also know, too, that Israel was making bad decisions. They got in trouble many times with God.
They haven't been an amazing people right out of the gate, no.
Yeah, biblically.
Biblically, yeah.
So in the Bible, they're not, we'll say they're not upstanding citizens biblically. And that's a reason why they were cast out and they had 40 years in the desert, all that kind of stuff, right? Coming back to current times, with everything that's happening right now and all the anti-Semitism and everything else, do you think that this disclosure and all this stuff, do you think that's all part of all of this?
I think in a roundabout way it's going to be, because there are a huge amount of Jewish people that live even within the United States. Like a large amount, even more so, I think, than Jewish people that actually live in Israel. And for the end times to actually happen, they need to go back home. They need to have a very large exodus, and they're not going to do that if where they live is this lovely, warm, and welcoming place. So unfortunately, I think there is going to be a huge rise in anti-Semitism all over the world. People, unfortunately, are going to be yet again hating Jewish people and pushing them more toward actually going back home.
And now, biblically, that's supposed to happen.
Yes.
So if that's supposed to happen, and that's the way it's supposed to be, and Israel wins in the end, it's interesting that so many people are pushing so hard to stop anti-Semitism and that kind of stuff.
I think because people just fight for what's right in general. Whether, a lot of people that are doing these things in these countries that are coming against Israel and stuff, they're not sitting there reading the Bible like, I wonder if it's my turn to go against Israel, and this would be the time that the Bible's talking about, and we should start up this war. They're not thinking about that at all. These are powers beyond their normal control. So God's word went out, and it's not going to return to him void, and it's going to happen.
Clearly, we've been talking about this topic a little bit already, and we have some great insights and things, but we really want to watch the videos that kind of sparked all of this, so let's jump into that.
A couple of pastors are invited to come to a private meeting with a group of men who are connected with the intelligence world that are believers, but still have very high security clearance. These are legit, true men of God that are still connected to Washington and even this current administration and all branches of military. And they literally told us, we had a sitting congressman, a very well-known congressman from Missouri. He called into that meeting as well. That was just for pastors. And this is what he said. On speakerphone, this sitting powerful member of Congress said, "Are the pastors listening to me?" I'm getting chills right now because this happened to me. He said, "Are the pastors in the room listening to me?" And I said, "Yes, sir, we are here." And he said, "Listen to me. Go and tell the church they are not ready for what is coming. The narrative that is coming, what they are going to say is going to be like nothing you can even imagine. They are preparing to tell us that they are from another dimension, that they are our creator, and that these beings, these aliens, or whatever you want to call them, they were the ones that seated us here. There is no such thing as God. Jesus was invented by them. The Bible was invented by them." And begin to just say, listen, prepare the people for what is coming because they're not ready. But he loved us so much he made sure that he told us exactly the blueprint to study. He said, study the days of Noah. And if you can understand how Noah responded, that's how you're going to have to respond.
All right. So now you've seen the official video. This is the first one that came out. We'll watch the second one here in a second from the same guy. But based on this, what's your takeaway?
It's the first time I've actually seen it. I think good on the congressman for warning pastors to let them know it's coming, especially because I know Congress has been briefed on it. I don't think any Congress is like, hey, I'm going to reach out to my pastor and let him know what's going on, because as Christians, we are very asleep. I can tell you from people I know that are Christians, just having conversations with them and talking about like where we are in this time. I mean, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, oh no, we have forever left and it's fine, and we'll just go to church and we'll just continue to read James 1 and we'll continue to read 1 Thessalonians and go about our day. And it's like, I don't think you guys are really awake at the fact that we're really running out of time and you need to testify to people and pray for the lost.
And as part of that, because of the great deception, there might be more lost.
I mean, I don't think anybody would technically be lost that was never written in the book of life.
Do you think that anyone, based on this disclosure, if anyone's on the fence and then say they were saved and they've been baptized and they're a believer, obviously not a super deep believer, they're not super deep in their faith, if they're able to be turned by a disclosure of aliens that created us?
People are going to be turned. So you have people that, whatever your belief on when the rapture happens, you're going to have people that go in the rapture, and then you're going to have people that actually turn to faith after it happens. When they see it happens and they're like, I missed it. I was wrong. They were right. They were saying all this stuff. I thought they were crazy, and they're not crazy. And now I understand what's going on. Now I see. And those people are going to have to go through the tribulation, but they will turn in their faith. There will be people that will end up basically dying afterwards, dying martyrs afterwards.
Based on what you heard, he's basically saying that this congressman is trying to warn the pastors, warn the churches, so they can basically reinforce the congregation that they already have to keep believing what they believe, regardless of what comes out.
I think it's interesting to warn people ahead of time, because people don't naturally make the leap between, when Jesus comes back, it's going to be like the days of Lot and Noah. The days of Lot and Noah looked like X, Y, Z. And I think that's why it's important for pastors to get out there and actually get this information conveyed.
Now, what's the chance that in a world of psyops, what's the chances that this could be a psyop itself?
It can be. Because again, we're the most deceived. So that's the hard part. You have to put what's going on against the word. You have to understand what the definitions of what the heck it meant of the times of Lot and Noah and what was going on then. And also understand that you're going to be the most deceived generation. So you need to pray for discernment. You need to keep your eyes and ears open, and the dear Lord will lead you.
So we're going to go through a couple of posts here. This is some of the pastors that were there. So we have Alan Dadio. He says, the news is true. I was brought into a private meeting with other pastors, phones off, no recordings. We were warned, disclosure is coming, and many will be unprepared for what follows. He says pastors must begin preparing their people now.
Kind of makes you wonder when they're going to release this information. Like, how much heads up are you giving the church? The whole point is the church shouldn't need a heads up at all. But unfortunately, I think a lot do.
And then we have Glenn Beck here saying, out of all the headlines this year, this one may take the cake. Government insiders asked a group of pastors to meet at an Airbnb in Tennessee to get briefed on reptilian aliens. Apparently, the word that Christians would question their faith if an alien said it was all made up. Honestly, I'd question the government and the alien way before I doubted my faith, but I don't think I'm buying it. That's Glenn Beck. And then coming down here, this is that same pastor, but now we're going to hear what he actually says. This is the next day.
I want to address this video that's going around of me in regards to the meeting of pastors that gathered to discuss the upcoming so-called UFO disclosure. And in this video, I stated that a congressman from Missouri had called in to speak to the pastors. And of course, it's being revealed now that that is Congressman Eric Burlison. And he did call in, but he called in to encourage us and to thank us pastors for the work that we're doing, and that we are, speaking the truth to our people and pointing them to Jesus and not get distracted of things in the world. In that moment, I began to state things that I have always said. That is my opinion. And my opinion is, and that's exactly all it is my opinion, that when this disclosure comes out, that it will be spun, that it is that the aliens have always been here, that they seeded us, that they created the first religion, and all of that. I should have stopped and paused and said, and this part is my opinion. In the heat of that, I didn't. I led with saying that they had called the pastors, and I went straight into my opinion. So I want to make it very clear that Eric Burlison did not say those words. Those were my words. And I want to own it, and I want to apologize directly to Congressman Eric Burlison for any problems that this has caused you, any confusion, and to any of the viewers that have seen this video clip. So I wanted to state the facts and make it very, very clear.
All right. So this is day 2. What's your reaction?
I don't think that was scripted. I think we had a conversation about this before, that you were thinking maybe that might be scripted, and he was kind of like retracting what he had previously said. This is very much along the lines of kind of similar to how Perry Stone speaks. He's a pastor with a large following, and Perry Stone is. And so he tends to be very careful and very clear about what he says so that he is not misquoted and misunderstood. And I feel like that's exactly what this pastor is trying to address, probably coming out of that meeting and then giving his kind of just brief opinion and information on the video, that it was, as usual, when it's information taken by the masses, was misunderstood and probably misquoted, and then they probably went back to the congressman and some not so nice things to say, thinking that he had stated that. And so he's just trying to clear everything up and be very diligent in what he says and how he says it so that he's not being misunderstood.
So do you think it's sincere?
Yes.
Okay. So between day 1 and 2, he's still on the same page, though. He's still saying that, based on his opinion, that so initially when I heard this yesterday, I thought this was in the meeting. I thought the meeting was saying that the government was going to say X, Y, Z. He's saying that himself. So what did the meeting say? I went to Johnny Z, and I put like 7 or 8 questions that are obvious. Was this only Christian and Catholic ministers and pastors? Or did this also have like Buddhist holy men and Islamic leaders and Hindi leaders and that kind of stuff? Was any of that involved? I also asked if any money exchanged hands.
I'm sure they're going to admit right to that.
Well, but here's the thing. If they don't say no, if they give any other answer other than no, it did. And then you have the questions like, how did they handpick you? And why were there so few of you? When there's tons of churches around the United States, hundreds of thousands, like you said, was this all in one area? Like, those are important questions. And then he says this is a high-level congressman. And we know some of the congressmen have access to some of these intelligence agencies and, some assets, we'll say, in the government. They have like leakers and stuff like that. That's how we found out about the Iranian aircraft carrier with the drones that initially sounded ridiculous. He's like, there's a mothership off the West Coast that has drones in Iran. And people are like, that sounds insane. And then what happened this year? We blew it up. And we have images of it. And to be honest, it was pretty badass. I actually thought it was pretty cool. but besides that, it's gone. So it was one of a kind and it's gone. But yeah, I mean, I get the feeling that he's sincere. And initially this meeting seemed like maybe these pastors were part of the PSYOP, if there is one. Again, we don't know if there is or not. This is just our opinion. But if this is legit, then basically it's a movement from a very small handful of pastors with this congressman to try to keep people focused on God and not be easily strayed by this information that comes out.
I think my assumption on the people that were selected would obviously be people only that particular congressman likely knew about, that they could also trust with some level of information and to be discreet with until a certain period of time or something of that nature. So it'd be limited to what just that person would have been aware of, which still kind of cancels out some of the other larger pastors that have been doing it for a long time and are more common names. So I'm assuming some reasoning went into choosing who was chosen. And then I'm sure that those people had to go through some kind of government checklist vetting of, no, not this guy, no, not that guy, yeah, this one's okay, kind of thing, to see if they could actually get the information.
Well, that's a big question. How did the congressman choose these people? And is this congressman acting alone? Was this just his idea to do this and just run with it, and he was worried about his state, Tennessee? He was worried specifically about Tennessee. I don't know if all these pastors are Tennessee pastors. That's one thing I haven't looked into yet. If that was, then that'd be pretty obvious that he just chose the people in his, immediate area that he was familiar with or had access to. But, if you look at the government, does the government approve of what he did? Does the government approve of this congressman running off with these pastors and spreading all this stuff on social media, saying that the government basically is going to come out with some BS talking about aliens when they're going to be releasing it shortly? These pastors are basically saying that this disclosure is like demonic or like an anti-Christian thing, and that the fact that there's some rumblings that maybe aliens created us and seeded the earth with us and that kind of stuff, and that they created God, they created the Bible for us to keep us complacent and keep us blind to the truth and that kind of thing. I don't think the government would look very, very happily at him doing that. What say you?
Well, we're a country founded on Christian values. Like, that was the Constitution. That was the whole, like, our founding fathers learned to read by the Bible kind of thing. I think there's a deep level ingrained in a lot of Americans, and especially maybe, those serving in Congress and other high offices, to make sure that Christian values are kept. And they definitely see that this is going to be an issue. So it's interesting that they were able to, if you figure that they're all being legit, if they're able to use their status and influence to actually get a heads up to select pastors that then know this information. But I guess what's the expectation of, like, what are they supposed to have ready to tell people, and how far of an advance? Why just them? Are they, obviously they are allowed to go out to social media and to start saying stuff, but is it like the iPhone that magically got, stolen or whatever it was, so that everybody can have a chance to play with it first and figure out, and it was just a hidden sales pitch? Or is this actually a congressman that was like, a lot of people are not ready for this, and I see a lot of people are going to be lost. What can we do to help?
Which I find interesting, because in our culture you have Independence Day, Star Wars, like we've grown up with all these movies. So if you were to say that aliens were real and these ships were real, that everyone has already thought were real since, Area 51 was even an idea before we were even born, then why would they think it'd blow people away so much?
Because you're changing it to, they live from another planet, to they're the reason you're here. They started the religion you grew up on, and they're the reason that you're alive and made, and you're not made in anybody's image. So it's the exact polar opposite of what Christianity is based off of. That's the part that they're specifically attacking, which I think should raise every Christian's like hairs on the back of your neck, to the point of, then it's probably not real, right? Like, it's not necessarily going after every religion. It's going after God. It's not going, well, I guess maybe it might go after gods, in other religions that believe that, that's certain, you have like a deity for everything, right? A deity for the weather, or a deity for the sun, and, things like that.
Yeah.
Basically. So if these beings created you, what's the difference? Instead of those deities, it's these deities. So I don't see a big shift in disbelief there. But if there's one God and you're created in his image, and you are something special because you're created in his image, and his son came to earth and died for you and your sins, that's a whole different story. Then, these random, beings that are interdimensional, no, they actually created you.
The funniest, by far, the winning comment of the day or the week or the month or the year, however long it ends up being for all this disclosure, was when someone said, okay, we'll accept that. Say aliens came here, they created us, they seeded the planet, they came and had sex with our women, and they made giants and all this kind of stuff, and they wrote the Bible and everything else. Great. They created us. Who created them? Where did they come from? So, that right there.
No, that's where their narrative stops.
Well, and that right there should just, right? Because you're like, okay, so these beings created us. They created the whole, Bible, Christianity, everything that we believe and know. Did they also create Buddhism? Did the aliens also create Islam? No, only Christianity is what they're saying, right? So the aliens conveniently only created Christianity, and then all the other religions are fine. They don't have anything to worry about. They can keep doing what they're doing. They can have little spaceships come in from Scientology. They can pray to the fat dude and Buddha, and they're good. But Christians, oh man, those aliens created you guys specifically.
That's what I'm talking about, where it matches up with end-time deception, and it matches up with, the good and evil that's been going on since the very, very beginning. Because, let's take Israel, for example. Has any other country been through as much as this tiny little country has and is still here? Not really. So it's a testament to the fact that God's here. It is a witness to him. It even says so in the Bible. And the whole point is just Christianity in general, it being attacked is the fact that it's the good versus evil again. Nobody's going to attack Buddhism. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have God behind it. Satan could care less. So when you look at something that's being very viciously attacked and the answer is the polar opposite, you really should be aware of it, especially when it has anything to do with God.
Well, I'm thinking about numbers. So there's probably significantly more Hindus and Islamic people than Christians, easily, right? Billions versus millions. So exponentially more of them. So how come no one's attacking Islam and Hinduism and Buddhism the same way they're attacking Christianity?
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Well, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what is it about Christianity, and I guess technically Catholicism to some people? What is it about that arena of religions that gets all the attention, that all this demonic energy and stuff is going on, that the alien disclosure is supposed to affect? Why is all the focus on that? If it wasn't real, if it was just some random crap that was thrown out there, then it would get equal amounts of attention as all the other religions, right? So why so much focus on Christianity?
The devil doesn't go after who he already has. So
write that down.
Yeah, that's just it. If you're in his back pocket, he's not going to worry about you.
Yeah.
You're not in his way. He doesn't want to separate you from God because you're already separated. So you're not a threat. You're not a problem. Your life's good, right? He doesn't go after who he's already got. So if your life is wonderful and you don't have turmoil and, it's constantly good times, check whose team you're on.
And here from Astro, they say this pastor here was talking about interdimensional beings and that kind of stuff, which has been a huge topic around all this alien disclosure. And we can talk more about that here after this video, but let's watch this here really quick.
That they actually look more human with reptilian skin, but humanoid. They're hybrids. They mixed it in a lab. Come on now. Okay, so it's not from another planet. And they don't even look like you think they look. So who's in charge of that? So this is the things that I've never talked about before. I probably never will again, but thank you for coming. But this is the thing that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the book of Revelation. These things are going to come out of the earth. They didn't come on spaceships. These are interdimensional beings. And those who have enough sodium pentothal in their system, when I ask them, will tell me the truth, no matter what agency they work for. They will tell me the truth, and that is they're interdimensional. They're not coming from far away. They're coming from below your house. And they're waiting for a certain time to come up on the earth. And God's not letting them be exposed yet.
What are your thoughts?
Was he one of the pastors?
He was not one of the pastors that was there. This is an old video.
It looks like old.
Yeah.
You can never tell sometimes.
This is filmed on a potato, as they say.
1990s.
Maybe 1980s.
Got the thin tie.
And they got the curtain thing in the back. That's really old school.
I feel like it's 90s.
All right, we'll go with 90s. So basically what he's saying is that these UAPs and this disclosure is not what people think it is. And a lot of people agree with this, actually. So as these pastors came out with this information, even between yesterday and today, a lot of people are saying exactly that. It's interdimensional beings. We've seen J.D. Vance and some other people high up in the government say they're demons. A lot of people are saying that they're already on our planet. Some are saying they're underground. Like, remember War of the Worlds, when the machines came out of the ground and they've been put there years before? Something similar to that. A lot of believe that they're in the ocean. Like, there's that movie, The Abyss, where the alien, there's a whole civilization down
So how
under
did
the
he
water.
know years ago?
So
Tell him who you know.
that kind of shows you this isn't new.
It's not new. That kind of goes with what I was saying before with AI, when not everybody is going to find this information new. Some people have an inkling, you know, but they're going to release all this information at the same time as they're doing what? You know, it's like sleight of hand, and it's very interesting, the timing of it. You know, he makes a point of, his last comment was that, you know, God isn't going to let it be revealed yet. And I think there's a reason for that. There's a reason for this information not being available until a certain period of time. Because it's his stopwatch, not ours.
So based on everything we've seen, I guess let's do a summary. What are the big takeaways from this?
Big takeaways. Always compare what's going on around you with the Bible. Also, with 2 or 3 witnesses, a thing is established. So you always want to make sure that whatever you're seeing is going on, that there's credible information, and that you're also comparing that with the Bible.
And you're not just getting it from one person.
We're not just getting it from Grok or ChatGPT or whatever. It's AI too, right? So, and also, besides just vetting your sources, praying on things, keeping your faith, making sure that you know your word well enough to not be deceived in the first place. A lot of people, I think you're going to have a lot of those people that are just those iffy, on the fence, lukewarm Christians that are like, oh, I knew it all the time. This is totally true. And I take it as word and I'm done now. And those may be the people that later, when the church is raptured, realize, oh, I was wrong. I guess everybody that I didn't believe was right. And now I believe, and now I'm just going to have a really rough life for
Just
the
sitting
next
in the pew by themselves,
handful
watching
of
everyone
years. Well, it's not going to be peaceful for sure.
Well, and now like the pre-trib and post-trib rapture, and if the rapture is even mentioned, and which version of the Bible you should use, and all that kind of stuff we can talk about another time. I know that's interesting to a lot of people. But I appreciate you coming on. People finally got to meet Miss Trigger Smart. And she's working on some stuff. She has her own channel. She's kind of trying to figure out which direction she wants to go. But I'll post that and give more information about that once she decides the official way she wants to go. But as always, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you want to help out the channel, there are ways to do so down in the description. And we will see you on the next one.